My wife said, "I still love you, but broke me more than the affair did." I remember watching her mouth shape the word, seeing her jaw tremble just a little on the B, and my brain still refused to accept what was coming. It was like my hearing cut out for a second. We were sitting at our stupid round dining table, the one we argued about buying because I wanted something practical, and she wanted something with character. There was a ring of coffee on the wood between us, half a slice of cold toast on her plate, and my heart pounding loud enough that I could feel it in my throat. She stared down at her hands, twisting her wedding ring around and around, and that unfinished sentence hung in the air between us like a knife. "Finish it," I heard myself say. My voice didn't sound like mine, it sounded smaller. I pushed my chair back a little, like being 6 inches further away would somehow soften whatever came next. My right leg was bouncing against the table leg so hard the toast crumbs were shaking, but I couldn't make it stop. She finally looked up at me, eyes red and wet, and whispered the rest. "I still love you, but I don't want to be married to you anymore." It was a Saturday morning in late November when she said that. We'd been married for 8 years, together for 13. I'm 35, she's 34. My name is Mark, hers is Hannah. We lived in a small brick house in the suburbs that we used to joke was one leaky roof away from being charming. If you walked in that morning without context, you'd have just seen 2 people in worn t-shirts and sweatpants, a sink full of dishes, a dog sleeping under the window, sunlight coming in at an angle that made the dust in the air visible. Normal, ordinary, but ordinary moments are where the big stuff happens, I guess. Not always in dramatic airport scenes or movie-style confrontations. Sometimes it's at your dining table in front of cold toast and a coffee ring. People always ask, when did you know? Like there's a single clear moment you can point to, a flashing red light on the dashboard of your life. If I had to choose one, it wouldn't be the day I found out about the affair. It would be the night we met, because that's where this whole messy story actually starts. We met in the most cliché millennial way possible, at a friend's housewarming. I didn't want to go. I just worked a 12-hour shift at the hospital. I'm an ED nurse, my feet hurt, and the idea of making small talk with a bunch of strangers sounded like some special circle of hell. My friend James bribed me with the promise of free beer and his girlfriend's famous spinach dip. Also, he added over the phone, her friend is coming and she's your type. Everyone is my type according to you, I'd grumbled, pulling on jeans that weren't scrubs for the first time in days. Yeah, well, this one actually is, he'd said. Just show up, man. Hannah was standing in the kitchen when I arrived, holding a bottle of wine in both hands like it was a shield. She had curly dark hair pulled into a messy bun, a fringe that kept falling into her eyes, and this nervous half-smile that appeared every time someone spoke to her. I remember thinking she looked like she was trying to be invisible and failing. James dragged me over. "Mark, this is Hannah. Hannah, this is the guy who once fell asleep standing up in the staff room." "Not my proudest moment," I said, reaching out a hand. She shifted the wine to one arm and shook my hand with the other, her grip warm and a little too tight. "I work with kids," she said, like it explained everything. "Year 2 teacher. I fall asleep sitting up with my eyes open sometimes, so I won't judge." We ended up on the tiny balcony later, away from the noise, both of us trying to recover from the social overload. She told me about her class, the kid who ate glue, the one who cried every time he had to do maths, the girl who'd brought a live snail in her pocket to show Miss. I told her about the guy who refused to admit he'd swallowed a Lego and the elderly lady who kept apologizing for taking up space while literally having a heart attack. "It must be so intense," she said softly at one point, tracing the rim of her plastic cup, "seeing people on their worst days all the time." "It can be," I admitted, "but it's also, I don't know, it makes everything feel very real. You stop taking stupid stuff for granted when you've seen how quickly it can all disappear." She looked at me like she was seeing something in me, not just hearing the words. "That's kind of terrifying," she said, then she smiled, "and also kind of beautiful." That sums up being with her, honestly, terrifying and beautiful. We started dating after that, slowly at first. Coffee dates that became lunches that turned into "oh, you're here again" evenings at my place. She brought color into my life in ways I didn't realize I'd been missing, literally and metaphorically. My apartment went from grey and practical to full of plants, mismatched cushions, and drawings made by her students stuck to the fridge. She was the one who convinced me to switch from nights to rotating shifts so I could see the sun sometimes. I was the one who sat with her in her classroom after hours, helping her staple things to bulletin boards while she vented about parents and policy changes and curriculum nonsense. We moved in together after 3 years, got married 2 years after that. Our wedding wasn't some grand production. It was a small ceremony in a park, her year 2 class forming an honor guard with paper flowers they'd made themselves. She walked down the makeshift aisle in a simple dress, curls pinned back, eyes shining, and I remember thinking nothing in my life would ever feel as right as promising to love this woman. For a long time that felt true. We were that couple people called solid. Friends came to us for advice. We had fights, of course, real ones, doors got slammed, tears got cried. There was the great IKEA wardrobe incident of 2017 that almost ended us until we realized we were more angry at the instructions than at each other. There were months where we barely saw each other properly because my shifts and her school schedule were completely opposite. There were nights where we went to bed with backs turned, breathing in sync but miles apart in our heads. But we always came back, or at least I thought we did. The first crack, looking back, was probably the baby conversation. Not the fact that we had it, that's normal, but the way it shifted something between us. We'd always said one day, when we'd see her students at school events, she'd squeeze my hand and whisper, "Imagine one of ours." When we'd see exhausted parents in the ID, we'd share a look that said, "Not yet, but maybe." It was this vague shared dream floating somewhere over a future we both assumed was ours. One night, about 4 years into our marriage, she came home quieter than usual. I was chopping onions for dinner, eyes watering. She dropped her bag by the door, toed off her shoes, and leaned against the counter. "Can we talk about starting?" she said, picking at the corner of the chopping board. "Starting what?" I asked, genuinely confused. She rolled her eyes a little. "You know what, the whole baby thing." I put the knife down, wiped my eyes, partly because of the onions, partly because I suddenly felt like I needed to see her clearly. "You want to start now?" "Not right this second," she said quickly. "I mean, I can finish my pasta in peace first. But yeah, I don't know. I had a student's mum today who's my age, and we got talking, and it just hit me. I'm 30, you're 31. If we want more than one, we can't keep doing someday forever." My chest tightened. I hadn't realized how much the abstract idea of kids didn't scare me until it became a calendar item. I loved the idea of being a dad, but my job was intense, our house was small, money wasn't exactly overflowing, and I panicked a little. I want to make sure we're ready," I said, hatting how cliché it sounded even as I said it. She frowned. "When are you ever ready, though?" "Financially, emotionally, sleep-wise." I tried to joke, but her face didn't change. "That felt a lot like a no," she said quietly. "It's not a no," I said. "It's, can we just talk it through properly? Maybe give it 6 months, make a plan." She nodded, but something in her eyes shuttered. We did talk more. We went to the doctor, got the preconception blood tests, started me on vitamins and her on folate. We put start trying, January, as a note on the calendar. We had sex on certain days with the kind of grim determination that kills any spontaneity. We laughed about it sometimes, called it Project Bean. And then January came and went, and nothing happened. Then February, then March. Being an ED nurse, I'd seen enough to know it doesn't just happen for everyone. Being a Year 2 teacher, she'd seen enough to know that some people get pregnant when they sneeze near each other and others spend years with charting apps and ovulation kits and no success. Month after month, she'd come out of the bathroom with this fixed smile and say, "Not this time," and I'd hug her and say, "Next time," and we'd both pretend we weren't a little more terrified each cycle. We got tested. Turns out my swimmers were fine, her hormones were fine, her tubes were clear, my whatever else they test was good. Unexplained infertility, the specialist said, as if giving it a label made it less maddening. We started fertility treatment. Hormone shots for her, blood tests, scans, timed everything. All while she was corralling 6-year-olds and I was dealing with traumas in Ressues. Our life became appointments and test results and arguments about money and insurance and whose fault it was, neither objectively, but emotions don't care about objectivity. We never see each other unless it's to talk about follicles or finances, she said one night, collapsed on the couch, cheeks still blotchy from yet another negative test. "I know," I said, staring at the ceiling. I was so tired I felt like my bones were vibrating. "I miss us." "So do I," she whispered. We didn't realize that while we were both missing us, we were missing different versions. I missed the goofy, slightly chaotic early years. She missed the feeling of possibility, the idea that life was still something we were building, not something we were being denied. Enter Tom. Tom was, I still don't fully know what to call him. The other man, her affair partner, her co-worker, all of the above, I guess. He was another teacher at her school, taught Year 6. I'd heard of him long before I met him. At first, he was just Tom who's really good with the sporty kids, or Tom who made that ridiculous end-of-year video. They were friends, colleagues, used to vent to each other about admin and parents, and the latest stupid directive from the department. I met him once at a staff drinks thing. He was one of those guys who immediately fills a room without seeming like he's trying. Taller than me, annoyingly fit, that teacher charm that makes kids adore you and parents trust you. He shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eye, made a joke about how Hannah never stopped talking about me. She says you're a hero, he grinned, clinking his beer bottle against mine, saving lives and all that. I'd laughed, embarrassed. I mostly triage people who think Google gave them cancer, I said. Hannah had smiled up at me, touching my arm. He's being modest, she said. He's amazing. Later that night in the car I'd said, Tom seems like a good bloke. Yeah, she'd agreed. He's solid, the kids love him. There was nothing weird then. No vibe. If anything, I liked that she had people at work she clicked with. Being a teacher is brutal. You need friends who get it. The vibe changed slowly. It started with his name coming up more often. Tom said this, Tom did that. Then there were the texts during dinner, her phone lighting up, her smiling at the screen, typing fast. Who's that? I asked, stabbing at my pasta. Just Tom, she'd say, not looking up. He sent a meme about staff meeting. Must be a great meme, I'd joke, trying to keep it light. She'd roll her eyes, don't be weird. I told myself not to be one of those paranoid spouses who freak out every time their partner has a friend of the opposite sex. I trust her, I'd repeat to myself. She loves me, we're just under a lot of stress. The first real gut punch came in the most mundane way. I had a rare Saturday off. Hannah had gone out to do reports at a cafe because she said she couldn't focus at home. I'd taken the dog for a long walk, done some laundry, and then, because I'm an idiot, decided to be helpful. She'd been complaining about her laptop being slow, so I thought I'd install some updates for her. I opened it, figuring it would be fine. She knew my phone password, I knew hers. We'd always been pretty open about that stuff. As soon as I moved the mouse, the screen lit up. Her Messages app was open. A conversation window was active. I swear I didn't go snooping on purpose. I didn't scroll. I didn't type. I just saw what was already there on the screen. Tom's, you looked wrecked yesterday. You okay? Hannah, just tired and sad, and tired of being sad. Tom, I wish I could make it better. Hannah, you do. My stomach dropped. I could have closed it. I should have. Instead, my hand moved like it belonged to someone else, scrolling up. There were weeks of messages, not explicit, not sexting, but intimate, emotional, her telling him about our failed cycles in more detail than she'd told me, him telling her she was the strongest person he knew, her saying she felt like our house is a waiting room with no appointment, him replying, you deserve more than waiting. Then, one message thread from a few nights earlier. Hannah, sometimes I feel like Mark only sees me as a patient he has to fix. Tom, that's because he's in fixer mode all the time. He means well, but he doesn't see you like I do. Hannah, I know he loves me, I just don't feel alive with him anymore. Tom's, you light up when you're here. Hannah, that's because you make me forget everything for a while. Tom, I can't pretend I don't love that. That word, love, it wasn't in the romantic sense, not yet, but it was there, hovering. My heart was hammering. I slammed the laptop shut, hands shaking. The dog, who'd been sleeping on the rug, lifted his head and whined, sensing something was wrong. I spent the next few hours packing the house, oscillating between anger, disbelief, and nausea. I knew enough about emotional affairs to recognize one when I saw it. I just didn't want to admit the label applied to my marriage. When she came home, juggling a tote bag and takeaway coffees, I was sitting at the dining table, laptop in front of me like Exhibit A. Hey, she said, beaming, I brought you a. Her eyes followed mine to the laptop. I watched the color drain from her face. One of the coffees tilted in her hand, spilling onto the floor. You went through my messages, she said, voice flat. They were open, I said. I didn't have to go through anything, they were right there. That's my private. Is it? I snapped, standing up so fast the chair scraped. Is it private when you're talking about me? When you're dissecting our marriage with someone else and telling him I don't see you? When you're telling him he makes you forget everything? Tears sprang into her eyes. It's not what you think, she said. Then what is it, Hannah? I demanded. Because from where I'm standing, it looks a hell of a lot like you've been building an entire second emotional life with Tom, while I've been here thinking we're on the same team. He's my friend, she said weakly. Friends don't say they love how you light up around them when you're complaining that your husband doesn't make you feel alive, I shot back. Friends don't undermine your marriage like that, and you don't go to friends before you go to your partner about something this big. She crumpled then, shoulders shaking. I didn't know how to tell you, she sobbed. Every time I tried, you'd suggest a solution. More therapy, more date nights, another cycle, another budget. I just wanted someone to listen without fixing. I would have listened, I said, and my voice cracked on it because I realized even as I said it that it wasn't entirely true. I am a fixer. I jump to solutions. It's what I do at work, and I'd brought it home. But that didn't excuse this. I thought he was safe, she whispered. He knows I'm married. He's married. I thought it was just venting. And then it was. Did you sleep with him? I asked. The question hung there, awful and heavy. She stared at me for a long time, and I watched the war play out on her face. Yes, she said finally, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Once, I swear, Mark, it was one time. The room spun. I grabbed the back of the chair to steady myself. My chest felt like someone had reached in and squeezed my lungs. Where? I asked, because my brain wanted details, even as my heart screamed not to. His place, she said, wiping her nose on her sleeve like a child. It was after a staff thing. We'd both had too much to drink. I should have come home. I know. I hate myself for it. I wish I could tell you I stormed out, slammed doors, screamed. I didn't. I sat down, very carefully. My hands went numb. My hearing got weird again, like I was underwater. She came around the table, knelt in front of me, grabbed my hands. I am so sorry, she cried. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I want you. I just felt so empty, and he made me feel something, and I was weak and stupid, and I don't want to lose you over this. Over this. Over this. Like it was a shitty purchase she'd made without asking, and we just needed to return it. The days after that were a blur. I moved into the spare room. She slept in our bed alone. We told no one at first. She sent Tom a message, which she showed me, saying, "This was a mistake. I can't do this. I love my husband. We can't talk anymore." He replied with something like, "I understand. I'm here if you ever need me," which made me want to vomit. We started couples therapy. We dismantled our lives like a Lego set, looking at each piece. My work hours, her loneliness, the way we'd failed to talk about the grief of infertility properly, the way she'd chosen someone else to share the deepest, ugliest parts of herself with instead of me. In one particularly brutal session, the therapist turned to me and asked, what hurts more, the fact that she slept with him or the fact that she loved how he made her feel? I didn't even have to think about it. The second one, I said, the thought that she could still love me and choose to do this anyway. Which brings me back to that Saturday morning and the sentence that started this whole post. We'd been doing therapy for 6 months at that point. We stopped fertility treatment mutually to focus on us. We had good days where it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could build something new out of the rubble. There were nights we laughed again, mornings I woke up with her hand on my chest and thought, we might be okay. But underneath, I could feel it. This distance. This way she'd look at me sometimes like she was trying to see the man she fell in love with and couldn't quite line him up with the man sitting in front of her. That morning I'd made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee, nothing fancy. I set it down and sat opposite her, feeling that weird tautness in the air. We need to talk about where we're going, I said. I can't live in limbo forever, Han. She stared at her plate. I know. Do you still love me? I asked. She took a deep breath. I still love you, but... And that's where my world actually shifted. Not when she said she'd slept with him. Not when I read the messages. That but was worse. Because it meant the issue wasn't the absence of love. It was that love wasn't enough. I still love you, but I don't want to be married to you anymore, she said, finishing the sentence. I don't want to keep trying to rebuild something I don't believe in. I swallowed hard. Do you want to be married to him? She flinched. No, she said automatically. Then a beat later, I don't know. It's not about Tom, not really. Even if he didn't exist, I think I'd be here eventually. I'm going to call bullshit on that, I said quietly, because he does exist. And you don't get to pretend he's not part of the story just because it makes you look worse. Tears spilled over again. I'm not trying to make myself look better, she said. I feel like the worst person alive. I'm trying to be honest finally. I love you, you are a good man, but when I think about the rest of my life I don't see us. I see grey, routine, trying and never quite getting there. And that's on me as much as you, but I can't keep doing it. And what with him it's technicolor, I asked, bitterness sour in my mouth. He makes you feel alive, all that crap. He made me feel seen when I felt invisible here, she whispered. That's not an excuse, it's just what happened. You could have told me you felt invisible, I said, voice shaking. You could have stood in this kitchen and said, Mark, I'm drowning, I need you, instead of saying it into someone else's pillow. She closed her eyes. You're right, she said. I didn't give you the chance. I'm trying to give us both a chance now, to stop hurting each other by pretending we can go back. So that's it, I asked. We just end, because you don't want to risk the discomfort of rebuilding. It's not about discomfort, she said. It's about honesty. I don't trust myself to not keep reaching for something else, something new when things get hard. That's not fair to you. And you deserve someone who, when they say, I still love you, don't need to add a but. And that, ironically, was the part that broke me and weirdly started to put me back together. We separated a month later. She moved into a small apartment closer to her school. I kept the house, partly because my shifts made moving complicated, partly because I was too emotionally exhausted to deal with real estate on top of everything. We split the furniture the way you split atoms. Who gets the couch, who gets the bed, who gets which mugs, which books. The dog stays with me, she visits sometimes. It's painfully cordial. She crouches down, scratches his ears, talks in that ridiculous voice she always used, and he wiggles with joy, completely oblivious to human fragility. As for Tom, yes, they're together. I heard through the grapevine first, teachers gossip worse than nurses, which is saying something, then saw a tagged photo I wish I could scrub from my brain. Them at some holiday market, bundled up in scarves, cheeks pressed together, her smiling in a way I used to think was for me alone. At first that gutted me, made me want to scream. You don't get to say it's not about him, and then show up with him like some prize at the end of a shitty game. But as the months have gone by, the anger has softened, or maybe I've just gotten tired of carrying it. The thing I keep coming back to is that, I still love you, but... Because the affair, as awful as it was, I can compartmentalize. It was a series of actions, choices, a shitty, hurtful thing she did. I can rationally say, that was wrong, that crossed a line. The but was about something else, about her capacity, about the limits of what she was willing or able to give. She was telling me, in the only honest way she'd managed in a long time, my love is not the kind that can keep choosing you when it's hard. My love doesn't equal commitment, not anymore. It took me months of therapy and self-pity and late-night ice cream to admit that if someone says that to you, the kindest thing you can do for both of you is believe them. I still love you, but... I still care about you, but... I still want you in my life, but... Those buts are like trapdoors. You can hang around the edge, begging them to come back up, or you can accept that they've chosen to step through. I'm not saying I'm all healed and wise now. I'm not. There are still days I wake up reaching for her and then remember. There are still nights when the house feels too quiet, and I hate that the person who knew me best is out there knowing someone else better now. I also have to own my side. I wasn't some perfect husband. I did retreat into work. I did approach our pain like a project instead of a wound. I did sometimes treat her like a patient. Can hear myself now, offering solutions when she just needed me to sit in the dark with her. None of that means I caused her to cheat, but it does mean I can't just write her off as a cartoon villain in my head. Why am I posting this? Partly to get it out. Partly because if someone reading this is in that weird half space where their partner is saying, I love you, but, and they're clinging to the first half of the sentence like a life raft, I want to gently say, listen to the second half too. Love isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't erase betrayals or guarantee future effort. I used to think if someone loved you enough, they wouldn't hurt you like that. Now I know it's messier. People can love you and still be selfish, cowardly, limited. People can love you and still choose themselves in ways that rip you open. I'm learning to separate the two, to accept that she did love me. I don't think those years were fake. I don't think she married me as a placeholder. She meant her vows when she said them. And then over time she changed. I changed. We failed each other early and often, and instead of turning towards me, she turned towards someone else. The affair was the explosion. That but was the quiet, steady voice after the smoke cleared, saying, there's nothing left to rebuild here for me. I wish she'd said it before she stepped outside the marriage to look for oxygen. I wish a lot of things, but wishing doesn't rewrite the story. For now, I'm trying to figure out who I am without being Hannah's husband. I still work in ED. I still work too much. I'm trying to be better at not bringing that fixer energy home to every relationship. I started playing basketball again on Thursday nights. I hang out with my nephew on weekends and let him beat me at Mario Kart. I go for walks without scrolling. Sometimes, when it's quiet, I find myself thinking about that moment at the dining table, sunlight catching the dust, her twisting her ring. I still feel that sting when I hear the word, but in certain contexts. But I also feel a strange, reluctant gratitude that she said it out loud instead of just acting it out behind my back forever. I still love you, but broke me in a different way than I slept with someone else. It broke the illusion that love is enough on its own, and in the cracks left behind, I'm slowly, clumsily building something new. This time, whatever I build, whether it's on my own for a while or with someone down the line, I want the sentence to end differently. Not, I still love you, but just, I still love you. and then, crucially, showing it in the boring, ordinary, everyday ways. No buts, no trapdoors, just two people choosing on purpose to stay.